Welcome to Circle of Clarity, guys. A short disclaimer before we start with our today's session. That everything that we'll be discussing is just for educational purposes, nothing's buy or sell recommendation. We are not SEBI registered advisors. When you are doing investing, it's a simple way of dividing it into two parts. Let's say the first is there are 5,000 companies listed on the stock exchange. How do we narrow them down to maybe top 40, 50, 60, 70? Filter it out. Okay, so that we are only focusing on the right set of companies, on the right set of good companies, good winners. So first part today we'll understand how to screen companies, how to filter companies. Okay, a lot of uh, 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 different ways, different ideas in which we can do this, and I'll be open from your ideas as well as to let's discuss how can we screen good companies. Okay, I'll tell you a few things that I've been using in the recent past, and then if you guys have any ideas, open for that discussion as well. So today's part one is how do we screen companies. Next lecture, next session will be part two, the investigation, wherein let's understand we have shortlisted 40 companies. Now within these 40 companies, which one should we invest? How do we come to know that? So we will deep down into it. Yes, we will understand exactly what all things you need to check in a stock. Every one of us is different over here. We have a different style of investing. If let's say a lot of you don't invest yet, so that is a secondary point. But how should we know ourselves what is our style of investing? What style of investing rather you like? You might be reading, you might be seeing a lot of people buying and selling a lot of shares. आपको कौन सा स्टाइल पसंद है ओके और कौन से स्टाइल होते हैं इन्वेस्टिंग में रादर सो अगर आप देखोगे ना गाइस अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट का जो लिटरेचर है उसमें दे आर सेइंग दैट देयर आर टू ब्रॉड स्टाइल्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग वन इज वैल्यू इन्वेस्टिंग वन इज ग्रोथ इन्वेस्ट तो पहले समझते होता क्या है Yes, let's understand what is this exactly. Value investing in a oversimplistic world, we tell it we are finding undervalued stocks. So the logic is simple. कोई चीज जो 100 रुपए का है, the actual value should have been 100, but we are able to get it at maybe 70 or 80. If that is the case, okay, or maybe 60 or maybe even lower than that, we should just buy that stock and wait for the market to realize that the actual value is 100. They push the value to 100 and you'll enjoy a good profit. Clear? So value investing is you find undervalued stocks and then have the patience to wait till the market also realizes that the value should be 100 and push it towards its actual value 100. Growth investing on the other hand is growth investing थोड़ा momentum style है मतलब you are essentially focusing a lot on growth, high growing companies. If there's a company which is growing by 20%, 25%, 30, 35%, okay, growing revenue. When I'm using the word growth, revenue ka growth, profit ka growth, etc. is very high. If that is the case, okay, such stocks you are interested into. Because the ideology of a growth investor is if your company is growing, okay, the value will also grow. So that is the logic. Value investing क्या बोलता है? Need doesn't matter whether the company is growing or not. Actual value से सस्ता मिल रहा है, just buy that. Growth investing मतलब you're chasing growth. You want the company's revenue, top line, bottom line to grow. In that case, इसमें हो क्या जाता है? You might end up getting expensive stocks, but that is okay. So these are two broad styles of investing. Okay. Now, ideally, in the last few years, I've been trying to use both. I've tried understanding what is value, what is growth. I've used both. To be honest, I've bought few stocks with the mindset of only growth investing. अब बहुत growth है, ले लेना चाहिए. The price doesn't matter. And then I've tried also value investing, wherein I've bought deep discount companies. Okay. And trust me, guys, both are not 100% correct. If you just follow value investing and you feel you'll pick 10 stocks and all the 10 stocks will work, that is not the case. Neither growth or investing works 100% of the times. So, sir, what should we do? Let's understand. Why should you not use growth invest? Okay, there's a very amazing line that you should always remember, while making decisions. It's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. Amazing quote by Warren Buffett. This reminds us a lot of things. It is far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. The price is important. Growth investing, you end up ignoring at what valuations the company trading. You just want growth and lay low. Rather, you should wait. You should wait. Correct? Why you should not go for value investing? So J.M. Keynes, the economist, J.M. Keynes, amazing line, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. Let's say guys, all of us here, we identified a very deep discount company. ठीक है हमें पता है कि ये बहुत ही डिस्काउंट पे ट्रेड कर रहा है बहुत ही कम पी रेशियो वगैरह yes and we are let's say investing all our wealth in that one stock. Everyone acknowledges yeah इसका undervalued है पर if people are not buying the prices won't be pushed upwards and it is possible you lose your patience. कितना 5 10 20 25 साल वेट करोगे नहीं आया प्राइस तो क्या करोगे व्हाट विल यू डू You can't do anything. Yes. So the market can stay irrational. Undervalued can stay undervalued for the rest of your life. Overvalued can stay overvalued for the rest of your life. This is also possible. So value investing also doesn't work 100% of the times. So then what can we do? Shall we wrap up the webinar today? What's the point of discussing if value growth both doesn't work? I'm not saying they don't work, but they don't work 100% of the times. So what can we do in that case? Recently, in the last 1.5 years, what I've observed is I've been using value and growth earlier. I've read books on it. I've practically applied all these logics of value and growth investing and all. And what I feel is somewhat in the middle lies the sweet spot. Somewhat in the middle lies the sweet spot. So if you can see this Venn diagram, maybe this might make our understanding simpler. Value investing में मतलब undervalued stocks होते हैं. Growth investing is high growing stocks, but they will be trading at a very high P ratio. So let's enjoy the best of both the worlds. Theoretically possible है, practically है कि नहीं? Let's figure out. So I'll introduce you guys to a concept called GARP investing. GARP investing is growth at reasonable price. GARP, GARP means growth at reasonable price. So you want growth companies, so somewhat of this, but you want it at value, good valuations. So value stock is actually undervalued होना चाहिए. I'm not saying very undervalued. Even if it is at a reasonable price, you should buy. So growth, but at reasonable price. GARP investing. Okay, growth at a reasonable price. Who popularized this concept? If you read books of Peter Lynch is regarded as the father of GARP investing. He's the one who has popularized this concept. Okay, growth at reasonable price. Sir, but what is growth at reasonable price? As I told you, yes, guys, you want to find growing companies, company which is growing. Because if you just find a value stock undervalued or growth nahi hai, so market will never realize. Indian market specifically, Indian markets are very, very, very much revenue oriented. Revenue बढ़ता है ना, top line बढ़ता है, people are very happy. Okay, people give it. अगर growth कम हो गया ना, multiple गिर जाता, P multiple falls. Yes, so we want growth. India में growth is very important. At least India specific investing is too much based on revenue. तो रेवेन्यू बढ़ेगा तो कंपनी वेरी गुड, गिरेगा खत्म. सो यू वांट अ कंपनी जिसका सेल, जिसका रेवेन्यू इज ग्रोइंग एवरी ईयर, ग्रोइंग एट अ वेरी गुड नंबर, मे बी अ डबल डिजिट नंबर. यस, along with that we want to make sure that when you are entering, yes, it should be available at a reasonable price, not a very, agar if all the growth is factored in, so there's no point of buying that stock. Yes, one quote of Peter Lynch, okay, which will make you, which will make sure you remember this GARP investing. He has said you want to buy the business that's going to grow, but you don't want to pay an arm and a leg for it. Correct. So, अच्छा company ढूंढना है, but don't pay everything that you have. Don't pay exorbitantly high price because then there's no room for making money. अगर आपने पहले से max out करके valuation दे दिया, if the company is trading at a 150 180 का PE ratio, तो मतलब unless there is extraordinary growth जैसे Nvidia वगैरह में हुआ था, yes, well, it's not possible. It's extremely not possible, correct, to make money in that case. So far, I'm hoping people are clear. Yes, my purpose was that thoda sa let's focus our attention towards GARP investing. So up till now, whatever we have discussed is value growth. I introduced two things to you. I personally believe the best of both the worlds is GARP investing, wherein you're looking at growth also, but you're also looking at the valuation filter, wherein you want to find companies which are not extremely overvalued. Yes, okay. तो ये जो पूरा इन्वेस्टिंग का अपना जर्नी है ना, टू मेक इट वेरी सिंपल, यू कैन कॉल इट द फिलाना फ्रेमवर्क. द फिलाना फ्रेमवर्क इज, it is a two-stage framework wherein fill is the filtration process. Step one, stage one. This is what we'll be discussing in today's session. Stage two is which is analysis. This is something that we'll be discussing next Saturday. Okay, so this is what we'll be focusing. So you can keep in mind investing karna matlab it's the Filana framework wherein stage one is filtration, stage two is analysis. Let's just focus on stage one today. I was earlier planning to do both in the same webinar, but then I thought we won't be able to complete that in maybe 1.5 hour or 1 hour time. So let's do one at a time, but let's completely deep dive into it. Okay, let's start with the filtration process. Stage one, filtration process. How do you filter or shortlist stocks? Okay, guys, super interesting. Please focus. How do we filter or shortlist stocks? There are various methods. There is no one right answer, and I would suggest you also shouldn't find out which is the best ढूंढने में मत जाओ. Try everything. You yourself, whenever you have time, if you are genuinely interested in investing, try all these methods. And I'll give you a few other methods as well. Try and then see what works for you. Okay. First one is the query approach. The best, क्या बोलते हैं, the most logical way to screen companies is queries. You put some queries, you will get an answer. Yes, you put some queries, you will get an answer. Okay, and then accordingly you should screen companies. Today there are 5,000 companies. So first way that I feel you should shortlist companies is through queries. Up queries nikalo, you put it in your screener, and then you'll be able to find best companies. Yes, so what I want to do is we'll do practically today itself. We'll sit We'll put some queries and then we'll see what is the output, how many companies are we getting. And I'll tell you the intention behind those queries as well. Okay, are you guys ready? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
let's start. क्या query होगा? Okay, as I told you, सबसे पहले growth is important, right? So we will top line and bottom line both should grow. So first is sales growth should be there. Sales growth, but sometimes what happens is that this year there might be a one-off thing. कुछ बहुत crazy हो गया, एक बड़ा project मिल गया, government tender हो गया, तो your current year का sales might grow. We want to see on an average in the last 3 years, every year in the last 3 years, average growth should be there. Okay, so sales growth of last 3 years. So what I'm doing, last over 3 years, every year the company is growing. Okay, and let's take a very conservative number. Let's make it 12%. Yes, sales growth of last average 3 years. So 3 years का average CAGR growth is 12%. And top line का भी growth नहीं, bottom line growth भी चाहिए. Only if you're increasing revenue, but then expenses also increasing. If you're not, growing your profits, there's no point. Ultimately, we are doing business to earn profit, right? So profit growth should be our next thing. Profit growth in 3 years. Okay, let's make this about 20. Why 20? If the sales is growing by 12, profit will also grow by 12. No, that is not the case. Economies of scale, fixed cost तो उतना ही रहेगा. Operating leverage will kick in, right? So your sales increases, your variable cost will increase, your COGS will increase, but your fixed expenses, admin selling expenses and all those things would remain the same. So your profit would increase substantially, way more than 12, which is, let's say we wanted at least more than 20%. So far, I'm hoping people are clear. So I'm telling you the intention behind me creating this query. Okay, why am I, I'll definitely give you the whole query at the end. But I just want we go through the process of how have we created this. So in case you don't like my query, you can make your query as well. Let's say you want to add some another factor or point of view inside the query, you can do that as well. So what I've done, top line, bottom line ले लिया. Next is आपका growth जो आ रहा है, the growth should not be backed completely by debt. Because guys, if you see the biggest reason of companies failing, company बंद होने का सबसे बड़ा reason क्या होता है? Debt. सबसे बड़ा reason of a company not doing well is debt. Correct? तो क्या कर सकते हैं उसमें अपन? तो हम डेट का एक फिल्टर लेते हैं. व्हाट कैन बी टेकन डेट? द डेट टू इक्विटी, let's say, should be less than 0.6, because we can't take debt free companies, because to grow you need to take loan. Yes, so debt to equity less than 0.6. Also another filter in debt we can take is your debt is less than the debt 3 years back. So it means that you had taken a lot of loan and now you're in the process of repaying somewhat. You don't want a company जो बहुत लोन ले रहा है. Every year if you're keeping increasing the loan, तो जेंसॉल वगैरह जैसा कंपनी हो जाएगा. When the loan is increasing, the risk is increasing. You want a company which has taken loan to grow, but now it is in the process of, you know, removing or maybe reducing the amount of loan. So your loan should be decreasing. Loan is done. Okay, so debt बहुत heavy नहीं है. The revenue is growing, the profit is growing. What else? You will see guys, companies doing well now. जैसे you remember we might have taken example of Garware High Tech in our first session when we were discussing quarterly results. क्या हो गया? Trigger क्या था? How could you find that company? The trigger was उसने product mix change कर दिया. When you change the product mix, your margin increases. So you want to spot companies which is doing something जिससे उसका operating margin is increasing. बहुत important है. See, sales and profit, revenue you can grow if you're just telling the customer, listen, instead of 30 days का credit, I'll give you 60 days का credit. Or maybe I'll give you a lot of discounts. So your revenue can grow on that basis also. Your profit can grow if you're repaying loan. Loan repay करते हैं, interest कम हो जाएगा, profit increases. Correct? So say profit and revenue both can increase, but your OPM, operating profit, guys, the hardest thing in a business is to increase the operating profit margin. OPM बढ़ाना बहुत difficult है. Why? Because net profit you can increase if you just play with the debt. अगर debt repay करते हैं, interest नहीं है, your net profit will increase very quickly without the business actually going through a transformation. You want to spot a transformative company. Let's say कोई नया product launch किया जिसमें margin is high, they may be exporting it somewhere where they're able to get more money. So the best thing I feel is operating profit margin. Now I cannot write OPM should be more than 20-10, because फिर many sectors जैसे textile है, उसमें margins might be less. Okay, heavy companies है, margin might be less. So I can't take an absolute number. So what I can do is I'll do OPM greater than OPM 5 years back. 5 साल पहले जो ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट मार्जिन था, अभी उससे ज्यादा है. So company is in the trajectory of increasing its margin, they're doing something well. Correct? And what else can we check? Ultimately, you want company ने loan नहीं लिया, increasing profit, increasing sales, OPM increasing as compared to its past operating profit margin. But are they using the money efficiently or not? So efficiency ratio, as in we'll check the return on capital employed. Return on capital employed, yes, should be greater than at least 18. 18% से ज्यादा होना चाहिए return on capital employed. Yes. But as I told you guys, GARP investing growth at reasonable price. तो reasonable price क्या है? P ratio. P ratio should be less than 35. 35 से कम होगा ना P ratio तो better. Because even though बहुत high growing companies miss हो जाएगी, I don't mind. I want growth at reasonable price. Okay. So if you feel you don't want to take 35, you can take industry average also. That is okay. This is what I use. I'm telling you what I use. And I will take market cap of about 1,000 because I don't want to get into very small companies. The reason is they are not very transparent. तो ये मेरे 8 क्वेरीज मैंने डाल दिए. This is my classic query. मेरा classic query है wherein I put 8 points, 8 filters, and this is how I find companies. Let me run this query and see how many companies are we getting. See, we have shortlisted top 41 companies. Okay, from 5,000 companies, we are left with 41 companies, which is less than 1%. 99% plus companies we have filtered out. So this is one way of filtering. As I told you, आज का हमारा टारगेट है 5,000 कंपनीज जो है उससे हाउ डू यू फिल्टर कंपनीज. ओके, फिर इसमें से शुड यू जस्ट डायरेक्टली इन्वेस्ट? नो. What should you check in a specific company that we'll be discussing in the next session, in the Saturday session. Okay, so far देखो आप देखो companies. Okay, there are many companies that's on your screen right now. These companies are something देखो. Caplin Point Lab है. Yes, I'm personally invested in this company. The reason being, I used to use these filters. I used to teach CFA. तो CFA में ना एक ratios वाला chapter है. So I always thought I'm teaching this, but let me practically apply. So one day, सुबह से लेके शाम तक, I just sat in my office, wrote down all the ratios that I feel are important. I had at that point of time put 22 queries, 22 points in the query. I just run the query. I was from 5,000 companies, I'm left with only 5 companies. One of them was Caplin Point. I still did not buy. 2 months, 3 months later, this company always went there in the list. Other companies used to keep changing. Caplin Point हमेशा था. So I thought this is a very good compounding stock. So I bought this a year back or so at 1,200 or 1,300. So you can see what's the price today. Okay. So I'm still holding. So I might be biased, but don't directly buy. You have to then read about the company. Okay. That's the whole story. But yes, this is a good starting point, right? अगर आज कोई आप बोलेगा 5,000 कंपनी में से which should you buy, you will feel scared. But now when you see that there are 41 companies only in the list, you might be a bit more encouraged to read some of them. Okay. एक query हमने समझ लिया, which is the classic query. Now, if you want, there's another way. Okay, there's another query that I use. Yes, which is somewhat momentum query. You can call it the momentum query. इसमें क्या होता है ना, you find companies जो अचानक से भागने लगे. there are stocks जो ऐसे ऐसे वर्क करता है और फिर एक टाइम पे ऐसा आके भागता है. You might have seen this is a very common chart in all many companies. तो एक ना इन्फ्लेक्शन पॉइंट आता है. दिस कॉल्ड एन इन्फ्लेक्शन पॉइंट. एक ऐसा पॉइंट जाके आके शेयर प्राइस फटता है बहुत. देन द शेयर प्राइस राइजेस लाइक एनीथिंग एंड देयर इज नो स्टॉपिंग बैक. समवॉट सिमिलर टू दिस. तो हमें चेक करना है कौन से कंपनी में मोमेंटम आ रहा है अभी. यू डोंट वांट टू बाय अ कंपनी which is ठंडा, wherein you won't be able to make money in let's say 5-10 years. You want जहाँ पे कुछ मोमेंटम बिल्ड हो रहा है. So another way of looking at companies is momentum किस में फाइंड करो. Yes, if you are someone like this who wants to find momentum, okay, so what we can do is we can find gaining momentum. Gaining momentum क्या होता है? Year on year quarterly sales growth should be more than 20. मतलब समझा guys? Year on year समझता है सबको? Yes, if I'm talking about quarter one of this year, I'm comparing it with quarter one of last year. I'm not seeing पूरे साल का profit now. I'm just seeing ये 3 महीने का profit. So year on year quarterly sales growth should be more than 20. So year on year means quarterly sales growth. You understand? This quarter's sales. Okay. Now year on year मतलब not the previous quarter, same quarter of the previous year. Okay. Same. As I told you, revenue से कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. You want profit also to increase. Now here I put. Okay. You want such amazing growing companies. बहुत growth. Sales growth more than 20, profit growth more than 25. Yes. PE ratio. PE ratio. You want less than, let's say 40. 40 seems proper. Again, market cap डाल ही दो आप. Market cap greater than 1,000. And ROCE, return on capital employed. Obviously, ROCE has to be more than 18. That is my कोई भी query में मैं ये डाल ही देता हूँ, ROCE more than 18. Okay. Now let's run this query. You're left with 64 companies. 64 companies. Okay. ये देखो ये Shilchar Tech है. Shilchar Tech. It was there in the previous query also. Now it is there in this query as well. So you can also combine कि सारी queries में कौन से common stocks हैं. So this query is just the momentum query. You will come across those companies which are posting very good results. बहुत अच्छे results दे रहे हैं, quarterly results. Yeah. Third query that I use, I don't use this very often, but there are a few companies guys जहाँ पे ना, as I told you, we want to find this point. और ये कब आता है? When there is extraordinary things happening in the company, maybe the revenue was 1,000 crores, 1,000 crores, 1,000, revenue went to 4,000 crores. They quadrupled their sales. ये कब हो सकता है? When can you increase your revenue so much or your profit? Profit बढ़ेगा when revenue increases. When will you increase your revenue? When you produce more, when you do a lot of capex. Correct? So early signs of yes, yes, Raju. Early signs of finding companies जहाँ पे there might be some inflection point is companies doing a lot of heavy capex. Heavy capital expenditure. Capex मतलब capital expenditure. Heavy capital expenditure, heavy capex कर रहे हो अगर आप, तो you can find such companies. एक simple आप query डाल दो ना, तो you will be able to. बहुत heavy capex if you want to find. You want to find very heavy capex companies. What you can do is just find capital work in progress. Capital work in progress मतलब fixed assets. They are making fixed assets, but they are not actually ready. They are in the process. उनका जो कैपिटल वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस है इज बिगर देन द नेट ब्लॉक. उनके नेट ब्लॉक मतलब टोटल फिक्स्ड एसेट द कंपनी हैज टुडे, लेट्स से 100 crores, बट दिस ईयर दे हैव स्टार्टेड मेकिंग असेट्स वर्थ 150 crores. सो जो असेट्स बना है उसका ऑलरेडी वैल्यू 150 है. तो जब ये फिक्स्ड एसेट बन जाएगा, द रेवेन्यू माइट जस्ट शूट अप. यस, इट इज अ हेवी कैपेक्स. यू आर लेफ्ट विद 148 कंपनीज. यहाँ पे यू कैन अगेन पुट दैट फिल्टर ऑफ 1,000 crore का मार्केट कैप. यस, सी यू कम अक्रॉस अ वेरी गुड लिस्ट ऑफ कंपनीज. यस. Another way, classic query, momentum query, heavy capex. I totally use there of I use 4 queries. The fourth and the last one that I personally use is sometimes ना guys, there are things that we don't know. We don't know क्या चल रहा है, पर्दे के पीछे क्या चल रहा है, we don't know. How do we find and spot those things? We have to chase big money. Big money कैसे chase करोगे? You find out change in DII holding. 3 साल on an average in the last 3 years. Okay, if this has increased by more than 4% in the last 3 years, 3 साल पहले let's say DI holding जो था अभी बहुत, DI समझते हैं डोमेस्टिक इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स, म्यूचुअल फंड्स और बिग इन्वेस्टर, बड़ा पैसा कहाँ जा रहा है. And you can find out another query is change in FII holding in the last 3 years has increased by 4. अगर ऐसा कंपनी मिल जाए DII FII both have increased their stake. Yes, let's see we are able to find such companies or not. Change in okay DII holding, okay of or let's say 3 साल का DII holding, 1 साल में नहीं 3 साल में, over a period of 4 years they have increased that by 4%. Okay, and change in FII holding that over 3 years is more than 4. If you run this query, you will come across 77 companies. Correct? 77 companies आ गए. आपको समझ रहा अभी DII FII क्या कर रहा है. Correct? So now you should click on that company and check their corporate those actions and all. What are the companies doing? क्यों पैसा डाल रहे हैं? क्यों पैसा निकाल रहे हैं? क्या चल रहा है? So you'll understand where is the big money flowing. Yes? हाँ आर्या,
Is
you're
the
हाँ there. Sorry.
here we are tracking growth of 4% or actually they're holding
No,
of
no,
4%?
percentage.
Okay, sir.
Adding
Sir,
to his query,
if
like you wrote 4% over there, right? So the change in DII holding 4%. So it means that over the past 3 years, DII have increased their holding in these companies by 4%. That's the interpretation, right?
It can also be decrease. So you should come and check. Let's say मैंने इसलिए ITC का एग्जांपल लिया. देखो अभी ITC देखो, इसमें FII has decreased. ये ईयरली है, हाँ देखो ईयरली देखो 40%, 43% था 3 साल में, अभी 37. सो डिक्रीज भी आ जाता है बिकॉज देयर इज नो वे ऑफ मी फाइंडिंग कि इंक्रीज ही कहाँ पे हुआ. सो व्हाट यू कैन डू इज यू कैन जस्ट सी डिक्रीज का मतलब फाइंड आउट चेंज कहाँ पे है, देन यू हैव टू मैन्युअली गो इन दैट कंपनी एंड चेक वेदर इंक्रीज हैज
Okay.
हैपेंड, डिक्रीज हैज हैपेंड. यहाँ
मतलब
पर
this
आप देखोगे
हाँ,
शेयर होल्डिंग पैटर्न में, तो FII ने बेचा, DII ने खरीदा. करेक्ट.
yes. So मतलब this query helps us know the change of up to
करेक्ट.
4%, and then we go and see if change बढ़ा है कि घटा है. If it
करेक्ट.
is if it has decreased, then we'll understand that it can be problematic. Yes.
एब्सोल्युटली
Okay.
एब्सोल्युटली.
So thank you.
Yep. People are asking in the chat box as well, sir, how do we get these queries? तो मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, मैं आपको मेरा लिंक ही दे देता हूँ स्क्रीनर का. आई मेड द स्क्रीनर लिंक पब्लिक. आप सिर्फ लिंक पे क्लिक करो, यू विल गेट ऑल द क्वेरीज. इन केस फ्यूचर में इफ आई लेट्स से थिंक देयर इज अनदर क्वेरी दैट आई शुड बी यूजिंग, मैं और क्वेरी ऐड कर दूंगा, तो यू विल ऑलवेज कीप गेटिंग दोस क्वेरीज. यस. ओके, क्वेरीज एक अपना क्वेरी हो गया. दिस इज जस्ट वन टेक्निक ऑफ फाइंडिंग कंपनीज. दिस इज नॉट द ओनली वे. दूसरा कॉन्सेप्ट है कॉपी कैट इन्वेस्टिंग।